Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's working group meeting on November 6th, 2025. We'll begin with our project updates. It looks like we have an update from the provider. Max, I believe you were the one who put this on. Do you want to talk more about it?
Yeah, so Almiko is not here, but he's the maintainer on this. So we recently released 0.2 of Karpenter Cluster API provider. So yeah, it's just an announcement to let everyone know that we're making good progress towards pushing for Cluster API to be providers. So yeah, that's not huge update, but just small fixes, and that's all we want to announce.
Was there any interesting features in this, or is just so you said like a bunch of small little things?
Uh, yeah, it's a lot of small fixes. There wasn't really any huge features. We're still working on, drift consolidation and such. So, not a huge amount of features to call out, just chore work, a little bit of that. So,
Gotcha. Sounds good. Thank you for the update. Um, okay. Does anybody else have any project updates from the upstream team? Any other providers? Cool. If not, then we can move on to community questions since we don't have any RFCs. Well, I guess I'll open the floor. But is there any RFCs anybody would like to discuss or bring up? If not, then we can just move on to community questions. Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks like we have a request for a review on a particular PR.
yeah,
Uh,
sorry. This one has been up for a while. There was a previous PR, opened by community member and it got stale. So I reopened it. I asked permission to do that, but a lot of the review happened on the previous PR. So, and I think the previous status of the previous PR was that we needed a maintainer review. So I just wanted to like push on that.
do you want to quickly give us like a high level overview as to what the PRs meant, like was trying to address?
Yeah. So right now Carpenter restricts certain labels from being put in, the node pool or EC2 node class or whatever to provision nodes with certain labels, like ones that prefix with kubernetes.io. And the PR is basically trying to say that we shouldn't be restricting it because there's admission webhooks in Kubernetes itself to sort of police this, I guess, prevention. So we're trying to decouple the label propagation from Carpenter and I guess Kubernetes itself.
I guess so. I guess my question there though is that like, I mean, there are specific like groups that are like explicitly prohibited for kubelet to apply like on itself when it's registering a node. Are you considering those like restricted domains, or is this just or are you just I guess I guess why does this matter? Why is this important for Carpenter to allow this if kubelet or other mechanisms are going to block it anyways?
There's certain labels that kubelet won't block, but are still having that prefix. For example, this one node.kubernetes.oil/role. Um, I'm pretty sure the kubelet only blocks a certain domain, but it doesn't block the entire .kubernetes.io domain. Um, I think that's true, but I would need to double check on that.
I see. I'm assuming this is for specific providers that want to use those labels for like to orchestrate permissions and such with those labels.
Yeah, for OpenShift at least, there's a label that we use that I don't think any other provider uses, but if we don't I guess allow this, there's certain things where consolidation or uh you know disruption does can't happen because Karpenter doesn't know how to provision these new nodes, right? Because existing nodes already have that label, but we can't consolidate new ones with the label since it's prevented. So um, I guess it's sort of fixed to allow that.
Gotcha. I guess more generally, I guess this is just my own specific curiosity, but like, are there like, I guess some of the like, are there kind of like a category of labels that I guess Carpenter should allow today? Is it all kind of related to permissions and um like node authentication, or is this like actually scheduling behavior that you're more concerned with?
I think it's more scheduling behavior. Um, but I I don't have the full context of the PR, but I believe it's just scheduling.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm curious with this one because some of these labels are used for yeah, I mean, as like a security boundary. So, like, yeah, the node restriction, Kubernetes.io, like these labels definitely kubelet should not be applying these labels. Well, like any labels that has this group. Um, so, yeah, I'm definitely curious to learn more about this. So I'll try to take another look and see if we can get more people from our team to take another look at this.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I think a lot of discussion about the security about this was
Mhm.
done in the original issue.
Oh, okay,
Um,
perfect.
so I think there's a lot there's a lot of back and forth about this, but I
Okay.
don't have like I guess I can't give you the full rundown on what was said here.
Yeah, no problem. I'll look through the previous PR, and if there is an issue, I'll go through it, and if not, I'll just follow up with your team to get more of a context. This is just more of it's just I guess more of a curiosity thing here on my end. Um, cool.
Cool.
Uh,
Thanks.
yeah, thanks. Cool. Now going back, I see that's the only community question that we have. Any other questions that anyone wants to bring up? Discussion points? Um, yeah, really, the floor is open for anyone to discuss anything.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to make this, so I didn't end up having something in advance. We've been we've recently started using Carpenter, and we see like single node consolidation generally seems to work well and do what we expect. Uh, Multi-node consolidation, we hardly ever see actually happen, even though we tried to make use of the new node overlay feature to give a static X dollars per hour to each node. In the because for like sysdig, Datadog, host license type stuff. So the anticipation was that two nodes of a similar size, like two nodes of the same size, should in theory get replaced by one node of the sort of next size up, because that would be that from the price per node, it's generally the same, right? The price per node per CPU is the same on these two. So when you add a static value for twice for two nodes, that'll be less than static value for once. So we'd expect that to consolidate to one larger node. And we never really saw it happening. Um, I did a bunch of digging and was finding that the multi-node consolidation kind of attempts to do some sort of binary search, but then that doesn't really make sense for like having a list of nodes, because you're not trying to find one, you're trying to find more than one, and they may not be next to each other in like how the list is sorted. And I think it was particularly bad because we have multiple different classes of nodes. So we've got a set of nodes with like a node role of ingress and a bunch with worker and a couple that are in a VPN subnet, that sort of thing. And they all get sorted together in the list. And it can't ever consolidate, an ingress node and a worker node together because they're completely disjoint. So I was kind of curious what other people's experiences were like with multi-node consolidation, and do people have that working well? Is it have I done something wrong with how it's configured? Kind of idea.
I can speak to that. So we have the same experience. Um, what we've seen at Indeed is we have highly multi-tenant clusters. That means that there's nodes with various CPU architectures, AMD 64, ARM 64, etc. Multi-node consolidation doesn't consider architectures either, so that doesn't work. It doesn't consider the node pool that the nodes are in, which usually you can't consolidate two nodes from different node pools. So we found that we have had to patch the implementation to segment and basically break apart the multi-node consolidation into different stages for various CPU architectures and then the node pool boundaries themselves. And then it works. But we don't find the stock implementation works at all.
Makes sense. Kind of matches my sort of dive through the code. I had a hack. It's still in draft. I wasn't really ready for anyone to. Well, I know it's not really like something that's reviewable. So I had a bit of a hack about just shuffling everything. What I was kind of like thinking was, if we randomly shuffle all the nodes, then eventually, like if we keep doing random shuffles every time it runs through consolidation, eventually it might put two nodes that can be consolidated next to each other. And I guess the question there would be, is that something we'd be, is that something that would be good for PR as something that happens inside multi-node consolidation? Would it be better as a different consolidation type? Is there something we want, like, way to discuss this in Karpenter first before just raising a PR with a bunch of stuff? Or is that just a silly approach in general? I don't know.
I believe this was an idea that was actually discussed within the team. I don't fully remember the full context, but we definitely did. I remember discussing it a month ago.
Wasn't that what Reed was considering before he left the team?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. It's definitely something we've talked about before. I do like the idea of random shuffles. I'm interested more in what Cameron was talking about your guys' like tiered approach, and if we couldn't do something clever with scheduling requirements where we like are trying to continually group nodes into various scheduling requirements, and so you can guarantee they get into the same. I don't know if that's going to be performant over time, but the uber point is I don't think you're going to get any pushback, Mike, on people saying multi-node consolidation isn't ideal. I think we all know it's not.
Fair. So do you reckon, would something that, to, I suppose a different question, I kind of tried to keep some of the original implementation intact. The bit in there that does the whole it sorts it and then tries to do a kind of binary search, which I still don't really understand the semantics there, because it's also, it appears to be like if it finds something here, it then searches in the other place, which feels like something's gone a bit wrong there in the implementation as well. Is there any point in keeping that binary search, or would just making it random be reasonable?
I think you have to keep it in part of the implementation because single node consolidation uses the same code path.
Does it?
Yes, it does. It just has some different restrictions on it.
But the binary search I'm talking about is the one that always picks two nodes. Actually, I could, one sec. Can I share my screen for this?
Sure.
Where's the, all right. Yes, I want to let it share. Okay. All right. Hopefully that worked. Yeah, so the bit I'm talking about is this first end consolidation option where it tries to do the binary search here. All of that, as far as I can tell, is only used within the multi-node consolidation class. So I know it then reuses the bit for, if we take this node out, can we still schedule everything? It reuses that. but that's called do this bit.
Yeah,
I
compute
think.
consolidation is what I meant, is the shared code path there.
Yeah, so I'm not saying to remove this bit. I'm saying to remove all of this bit, sort of thing. The bit where it sort of binary searches down to sort of go like, yes, should I consolidate a full half of it and then like quarter of the cluster, that sort of idea. So that's my thought, to just ditch that entirely. And would there be any objections to that?
I mean, I would be curious what it looks like, but I'm not a Karpenter maintainer.
Yeah. I think
I
ditching
linked-
it all together would be something we would have to move forward with caution. Just given I think we know that there are a lot of scenarios where multi-node consolidation doesn't work as expected, but we also know there are quite a few where it does. Particularly in clusters, which are a little bit more single tenant, where pods are a little bit more flexible about what nodes we can land on. I think any changes we make to the existing algorithms, we would have to try and balance, like making sure that we don't cause regression for folks that this does work well for. And that's where I could see, if we wanted to, I could see like random ordering being a good first step in evaluating that. And one of the things that we are actively working on building out is more benchmarking for different consolidation scenarios. And once we have those like benchmarks more built out fully, I think we'd be in a better place to start evaluating these larger, more overarching changes to the consolidation algorithm.
That makes sense. What about if we had a the naming might not be great here, but a multi-node random consolidation one, possibly feature flagged, so it's not on by default.
I think I can't speak for the whole project. Personally, I think that's something worth considering.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
But
at some point as a project, we're gonna have to talk about how we do like either new consolidation modes or like changes to existing ones, and the whole feature flag a new consolidation mode, and hopefully it can run alongside the old one just fine. And then eventually, if you prove that it's like beating the other one, the hard part is priority. So right now all the consolidation methods have a priority where like we do emptiness first, and then I think we do single node, then we do multi-node. So you need to figure out where your feature flagged one sits in that order, which is probably fine. But then eventually, if we like can demonstrate that for enough people it's just better, I think we could easily make a switch then. That might be a good path forward.
That makes sense. I mean, frankly, I'd be happy with it being last, mostly because I don't see the others doing anything, so it would fall through to the one I want eventually anyway. If you see what I mean.
Do we
Okay. I might
do
take a
folks
stab at
remember,
that.
do we time out on a per method basis, or do we time out for a consolidation loop overall? I know Reed added a timeout to consolidation.
off memory, I thought it was per method.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I
multi-node
thought
has an
too.
explicit one here.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, I mean, with those timeouts, eventual progress should be guaranteed. I mean, maybe there is a future where you want to make like the ordering of the different methods tunable. I think that's something we'd want to see a pretty strong use case for. Just because it gets pretty difficult to reason about, especially for folks who are maybe a little bit less familiar with Karpenter's internals. But
Yeah, I meant as like for your feature flag one, if you were gonna set your feature flag one and say, hey, it happens before multi-node, like just by default, and that's where it will slot in eventually. Like I mean, we don't need to set the precedent that all new methods go at the end, you know?
Yeah. I kind of feel like this one makes sense as a last ditch resort. It's like if you have good heuristics that do something clever, great. And then if none of your good heuristics have worked, just give up, throw some randomness at it and hope. Because yeah, most of the time it'll probably pick the wrong things and fail to get consolidation out of it. But sometimes it'll work. And yeah, if we run it enough times, eventually your cluster will consolidate, which is kind of what I'm after. I don't expect it to work. I don't expect it to make progress every time, but as long as it eventually gets there, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right in the sense that like a good we should always drive to have a better heuristic instead of just adding different consolidation methods. Um, and then eventually then we can, we can just improve, what we call consolidation as opposed to introducing a bunch of different options. But we have also definitely talked about that here, the consolidation heuristic in the future. Um, to see if we can figure out something. But again, like Jason mentioned, we have to do a lot of benchmarking work prior to even considering any changes. Derek, you want to go?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Mike. While we got you, would you characterize your use case for Carpenter as like a high churn cluster? Because you said you got I don't know if you described how heterogeneous or homogeneous your nodes are. I would also be curious to know like how frequently you're changing your workloads.
That's quite varied actually. We have clusters that get turned off every weekday. Well, we scale down nearly all the workloads, so they consolidate down to a very small and then build up again the next day, because that's just for cost reasons. We turn everything off. The production cluster tends to be fairly stable. It tends to stick around, and there's churn every day from people deploying stuff, but it doesn't change particularly in size type things. And we have a cluster for like tooling, and that one goes up and down a lot because it's got GitHub Actions runners that autoscale, so that will frequently change size. The problem I think we found with the default methods is that our cluster has a couple of small ingress nodes for sort of DMZ type thing. And then it's got, most of them have a couple of, we call them VPN nodes because they're connected to a VPN to a third party. And then we have a large bulk of worker nodes. So the ingress and VPN ones both have role labels and taints, so only certain things go on them. And then the rest of it has a label, but no taints. So things will generally end up on the worker pool. I think one of the things we found is that because those VPN English nodes are tiny, the default algorithm sort for the multi-node consolidation, it tries to sort by disruption cost, and then the disruption cost of those small nodes is low, so they're always at the start. And when it does the budgeting piece, it sorts the nodes by disruption, and then it goes along and takes however many nodes will fit into the budget if all of them were to be consolidated. Which means that our small nodes are always at the start. And then the binary search algorithm goes, nope, 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 because it keeps considering the same ones. So it never gets anywhere because it's got these ingress nodes that it desperately wants to consolidate and can't because there's two of them, and there's always going to be two of them because they've got a topology spread constraint to need two for AZs. But I think that's partly what's going wrong here, is that they're just in there. I have attempted a bit of a hack with that, which didn't seem to work out so well, by trying to set timed budgets of 2 out of every 10 minutes for the different node pools to force them to be taken out of the list, so it only considering one class at a time. But I still haven't had great results, and I can't quite tell why, because it's quite hard to debug what's going on.
Yeah, the disruption cost is another part of the consolidation that is not great right now. The disruption cost is actually just a pod count. So if you have like a workload that is like one pod to one node, then Carpenter thinks the disruption cost is very low incorrectly. So, and it doesn't take node utilization into account at all.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at changing disruption cost calculations at some point once we get a better heuristic.
Okay. Cool. I think that was a lively discussion. Anything else we want to discuss? Okay. Um, Mike, do you feel like you got everything that you kind of wanted, or do you kind of have an idea of what next steps?
Yeah, I'm going to try and work on a PR that adds a new. I'm going to add it as a new consolidation type that just does randomness. Feature flag it, shove it at the end of the list, and see where we go from there with feedback on PR.
Yeah,
And maybe that ends up being used. Maybe not. I guess we'll see. It'll be definitely interesting to see benchmarks and be able to actually more, then be able to evaluate it further, sort of thing. But I do feel like there's a place for, I think there's a place even when you have a good heuristic for also just falling back to just trying things randomly.
yeah, it may be worthwhile to just add like a quick RFC to indicate like your use case where things have gone wrong, the purpose of this, that kind of outlining that kind of detail for us to have like for for posterity's sake, to capture this conversation.
Sure, can do. Thank you.
Cool. Jason, you're on mute. Is there something you wanted to say? If not, then I think we
Oh.
can.
No, I just forgot to mute.
Okay. Then in that case, I think unless anybody has anything else, we can call this meeting to an end. So I'm gonna just, I guess, open the floor up one last time for anybody else to bring up any new, comments, concerns, questions, anything they want to discuss.
I have a small thing. I added a PR at the bottom. It's a small PR just to add no pool names to logging. I'm wondering if I can get someone to take a look. It's a very minor change, but it's just quality of life, because right now it outputs all these errors in the logs about incompatible requirements or untolerated taints, but it doesn't tell you the no pool name. And I think being able to see that out as part of the logs would help some of the investigation, because it just dumps the logs and it's like, here's all the things it didn't tolerate, but I have no idea which no pool. If I have multiple no pools, I don't know which one it didn't tolerate for or didn't have resources for or whatever. So I thought this was a slight improvement in quality of life, just to figure out what the no pool was it was evaluating against.
I thought that the node pool name was wrapped up higher up in the air. Like it's not wrapped here, but it's wrapped like a level or two further up.
Is that, and I guess I'm on like 1.5 something.
It might be more recent.
Okay, I can take a look then, because yeah, maybe this was fixed already and I didn't know. I can take a look. I was about to upgrade to 1.8, so
Yeah, I mean, should just double check. I mean, if we don't, this is, I think, reasonable to have. But yeah, I'm pretty sure with those errors, you have like the node pool name and then the set of errors. At this point, like there's actually in the structured errors, it's like a map from node pool name to the error.
okay. I mean, yeah, if that's there, perfect. I'll take a look. I haven't looked back on it since I cut the PR.
I thought I remembered seeing the no pool names as well, just because I was debugging something, I think a few days ago, and I thought I had that kind of an association, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect. I'll take a look at the newer version and see what it looks like. Thanks, though.
Cool. Yeah, anything else anyone wants to discuss? Cool. If we got nothing, then we'll call this meeting to an end. Thanks everyone for joining and bringing up interesting points. Have a good rest of your week.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Thank you.